What's up, Eli?
Jesus.
I'm excited, man.
Coming out the gate.
Wait. Those are my guys.
Shout out to Long Cut.
What's up, boys?
What's up, man?
They're out there doing their thing too, man.
They are. They just got back after it, man. They did their first show in a little while.
These are my friends, Eli. I don't know why you're speaking for
They
them.
are. I adopted him.
I know. It's funny how I introduce you to people and they end up
Don't
liking
you even
better.
start, bro.
Oh,
Don't you
bro.
even fucking start.
Oh.
Literally every single person in my let's just talk about Corinna. We're talking
One
about
of them.
stealing people from our circles. Let's talk about my fucking wife.
Now that one just naturally grew over time.
Even
was
worse.
just there.
Even worse.
But if it makes you feel any better, my wife literally just gets
Even
along and
worse.
agrees with everything you do. It pisses me off.
Right.
Exactly why it works. Yeah, more than that. Long Cut, Tosh, who else?
Two.
Taco. They all dig you, bro. It pisses me off. And I think they
Likewise.
know that I know.
Likewise. They do.
Makes me mad.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, man. Hey, you were talking a second ago when I was muted, and you were wanting to give a
best time to
shout out.
talk, man, yeah.
You were wanting to give a shout out to something, and I said, yeah, just do it.
Yeah.
So, what you got, man? What's on your mind?
No, just a little intro, man. Welcome to the Day $1 Zero podcast.
That's what you were talking
I'm
about?
your host, Will Grimes. My partner, Eli Schmidt.
You want
Here
me
we
to
go.
say that?
Well, too late now.
I feel like people know us already.
Too late now. Not new listeners. We have a lot of new listeners, bro.
We do,
Yeah.
but it does say Day $1 on it.
True, but not Will Grimes or Eli Schmidt.
If you are just now getting to this podcast, I'm the smart ass.
There you go.
Will Grimes.
You guys haven't figured that out yet.
busting Eli's
Here,
balls.
Let me throw your Instagram handle up here. Here we go. Boom. This is your smart ass Will Grimes right here. And your handy dandy. I'll come up here 10 seconds. Partner,
I'm so thankful for you.
Eli Schmidt here. Here we go. Check that out. Look at
I
that.
love your Instagram name, especially after all the jokes.
Just came from you mocking
It's just-
me. That's it.
No, you were just saying that on videos.
Yeah.
All right, enough banter.
There we go.
Because I'm just gonna go off on you with sarcasm,
There
and
we
it's
go.
probably not in my best interest. I'm not nearly as funny as I probably think. It's super funny to me, which is all that matters. If I get good laughs throughout my day, however, probably not best for our audience, but good one today.
Let's hit it.
How to have more energy in business. A couple more. It's huge. I've got a couple topics. I know you've got an interesting topic that you want to talk about just with your experience with it. And I think it's probably a little bit different than most people think. So we're going to save that one. And kind of like, I want your opinion on some of mine.
Mine's probably right on par with exactly what people think. I think yours is going to be the more.
You think?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to find out how many little drug addicts we got on this podcast.
There's a lot more than you think, bro.
Oh,
a
man.
lot more than you think.
So, but getting right to it, a lot of people, if it's like, hey, how much do you sleep? How much do you not sleep? I know this has been a big topic for the Gary V's of the world. And
Yeah.
hey, it's just what you do when you're awake. Not, and I get it. And I'm sure a lot of people, when they hear him say that, like, hey, I sleep 6 to 8 hours. It's not that I don't get sleep. It's everything I'm doing while I'm awake. And I think people want to say, no shit, Gary.
It's a ton of cliches.
We
around
understand. Right. And it's like, well, but it's more so about like, hey, how am I finding that energy, or how do people find that energy during your day all the way through completion of that day? Even if you are just doing a 9 to 5, you're an entrepreneur, but you're doing a 9 to 5 style because you've got a family, a ton of things you can do if you're super focused and just actually productive during that window. And then if you do have to do some things at night or late into the night, sometimes you and I, we have super long days, weeks going to weekends. It's not deliberate. It's kind of like just week by week basis, depending on what's going on, especially with our real estate company. That always takes priority when we have clients. That's the priority. So a lot of our recording, video stuff for our YouTube page, Living in Denver, Colorado. We just started a new YouTube page, Mission Real Estate, that's focused on veterans and first responders transitioning into real estate. A lot of times those things have to fall on a weekend because we've got clients during the week, or vice versa. Clients can't get out during the week, so we try to crush as much as possible. And then weekends we've got to save for clients depending on what we're doing with them, if we've got buyers or sellers, and that changes some things. But I think the bottom line is just, how do you have more energy for all that,
and also sustained energy, but then productive energy too, because just being busy and getting through the day, being busy or having productive energy,
being busy
is
will wear
different.
you the fuck out.
Yes, it will.
Being busy and just checking the box and doing a lot of different things that don't necessarily show any reward. That's like fighters or football players that just go to practice, they never get to go play in a game. And playing in the game brings a lot of momentum, brings a lot of energy, brings a lot of passion to what you're doing.
It's like putting a spin bike on spinners. You know what I mean? Like you're putting a lot of energy into it, but
Well, and
much
there's just
are
no
you actually
reward.
going? Right.
You know what I mean? It's like it'd be like you doing your bodybuilding preps, but you never actually get on stage to reap any benefit for personal or audience or judge. Because I know if you don't win, hey, there's still some personal accomplishment from stepping on stage and showing off your package.
$5 trophy.
They always call it a package. Here's brought my best package. I'm like, that sounds so. Shut up!
I'm
Stop
done
saying
with that
that
shit, man.
I brought my best package. Best version of me. My best package. I'm like, hey, your package is genetically.
Side note from
its
an insider:
package.
your best package is your worst package, if you know what I mean.
But I've got a couple topics I want to talk about in regards to this.
Sure.
We're big into fitness as far as like the mental side of things. We just got done doing a diesel day, right? Brian Shontosh's diesel day up in Netherlands, up in Boulder, close to the Rocky Mountain National Park. Super cool, super hard. If you guys are unfamiliar, if you haven't seen our post about it prior, so a 24-hour diesel day is a 24-hour continuous fitness endeavor. And Brian Shontosh uses physical fitness as the vehicle to get your mind and body to just go places. So it's not about being able to run a marathon in 3 hours. It's literally some type of physical challenge continuous for 24 hours straight. And it's gnarly. And a lot of good things about it. I've been processing it since we did it. Elon and I both participated. I of course, true to our nature, I talked you into it. But by talking you into it, I told you I would do it with you. I draw my energy from camaraderie, from bonds. I'm very similar to Tosh when he talks about how he can draw energy from others. So now he wants to do a challenge just strictly by himself and not be able to do that. I'm very similar in the sense of like, I literally talked you into it because you're super open to just some high level military guys and that world and kind of how we fuck with our mind and do different things. And so I talked you into it, but then in the back of my mind, it's not like it wasn't there.
You know
I was
exactly
already
what you were doing.
I was flirting with it a bit, and hey, maybe I'll go volunteer. Yada bullshit.
Yeah,
I got you motivated about it, but you being motivated about it and like just watching you pull the trigger and go, all right, okay, I'm cool. I'm in. Like, cool, I'm in. I'm gonna do it with you.
And subconsciously, you know exactly what you're doing too. Whether you're aware of it or not, your body like knows, and it's like, let me talk Eli into it, and then I'm gonna trick Will into it.
Yeah.
That's what your subconscious is.
Which had already
itself.
tricked me into it because I knew you were gonna. And I even showed you the text message to Tosh, and I was like, hey man, maybe I'll do it with him. I think that'll maybe push the needle. I was already in. I know I goof off a lot. I'm a lot more dialed than maybe I present myself at times.
You do. You are.
But it was good. So getting back to the topic of like, hey, how do you create more energy? Going to that diesel day, it definitely opened perspective and some things emotionally. But before I get into that, I want to get into just superficial. Some of the challenge, you had to carry weight. Right, well, a 55-pound bumper plate for bonus points, or carrying your own weight, or what I want people to visualize, if you've ever worked out, even if you've just gone for a walk, imagine throwing, and this was not part of Diesel Day, but just bear with me for the sake of an example. Imagine carrying around a 50 or 100-pound vest that goes over, like a tactical vest, and add 50, 75, or even 100 pounds into that. And then just wonder, like, from the second you get up in the morning, put that on. Everything is harder. Tying your shoes, getting down to find the remote that fell under the couch as you're straightening the pillows and getting everything ready for the day. Oh, I gotta get under there. That remote, fuck. Every step, getting into your car.
Yep.
Do I want to stop for coffee or just go to work? Because now I got to get out for that coffee. And you're heavy, right? That's its physical form. What I'm trying to get at is every bit of dead weight. So negativity from friendships, business partners, business relationships, just creates that toxic energy. And I promise you, if you get rid of that, you literally feel physically lighter. We've gotten rid of bad clients before. Not bad. That's a terrible word. Not a terrible word. Inappropriate word. We've had some clients that we've had to just not work with, or they weren't quite prepared, and we just kind of nudged them that way. And you and I have had a conversation afterward. I'm thinking of one right now. She had attack roosters. We're going to leave it at that.
Yeah, that narrows it down, yeah.
She had 4 attack roosters. Great lady, but she carried...
Use that term loosely, too. We don't know if she was a great
nice
lady or
lady.
not.
But she carried a lot of stressors in her life.
Wasn't really nice either.
Right? Well, okay. a lady
Yeah.
carried a lot of stressors. Like you could feel it in her house when we went there, right? And just everything that was going on, and wanting to do the best we could to help her out because we were referred to her by some folks who thought highly of us. So you not only want to do good for her, but just your reputation of people referring you, correct? That ended up not working out. She had to take a different direction, with her home and some different things, and we'll leave that out because none of that matters. But I remember the conversation you and I had, and literally that conversation just physically felt lighter.
Oh yeah.
Right? Same thing with like drag racing or racing cars. How can you cut all of the weight? Now, not so much weight you get no traction, but as much unnecessary weight out of this car. The back seats, the door panels, you got this huge 30-gallon gas tank, don't need it. You need a 3-gallon.
Right.
You got a small little box for fuel, just big enough to go down the track one time, and you're cutting all this weight. That's its physical form. But I promise you, if you can find a way to cut those people or those circumstances or situations, even within your routines, we'll get to routines in a little while, but all of those stressors, either in its physical form of people or just toxic situations that you're habitual with, and you'll feel lighter. And I promise you, when you feel that way, you kind of feel like you have more energy to put into something else that's more productive, right? Is there anything you got to say about that?
Yeah, man. Going like a step further or maybe a step behind that, people really should ask themselves why there's extra weight in the first place, right? Is this extra weight making you feel necessary in somebody's life? Are you taking on weight of somebody else's because you feel guilty or it gives you a sense of purpose? But in reality, it's holding you back from accomplishing your own things. And maybe that's your own little subconscious thing that you have going on.
I saw that a lot in cops.
Yeah, did you?
So save your thoughts. I kind of want to pick your brain on that.
Yeah.
So a lot of cops, man, like no disrespect, but I met a lot of police officers that were great at going into work every day and solving everybody's problems. But their life behind the scenes was a shit show. And don't get me wrong, man, they were good people, but their life, man, their marriages, relationships with their kids, how they treated other people, who they decided to even just be around, and if they even got out of the house, were they always working off duty? They were super toy happy. They were buying jet skis and boats and a lot of things that they just didn't need, and I wonder what they were trying to fulfill there. And obviously I'm shooting from the hip. I can't speak because no one ever told me what they were filming. But I would watch cops, man, like be so great at work and then work their normal hours and then work off duty, work extra hours to just afford their lifestyle. Yeah. But then their marriage, not so good, or they were on their third one. Relationships with kids, not so good. And I wonder if the boats or jet skis were escapes, were keeping up with the Joneses. And I also, side note, I'm getting distracted, but save this for later. We talk about keeping up with the Joneses, how some like married couples or girls kind of want to do that. Yeah. There's that with dudes too. Oh yeah. 100%. Guys buying guns and trucks and the new Ford Bronco or a fucking Toyota Tundra or whatever. No disrespect if you just like that stuff, but I think people are understanding what I'm talking about. Wearing the super patriotic stuff and buying every gun on the planet. And now I got to have a bow. Yeah. Because everybody else has a bow, and they're just diving into every manly recreational hobby possible to display it. And I'm like, man, dudes are more insecure than women. We just don't have that conversation.
It's just different,
and it's out there. But I just wonder, like, hey, is a lot of those things just weighing down on you too, right? So keep that in mind as you talk about that, because I feel like a lot of cops. It's that in their off life. It's a disaster, but they've got no problem going in and fixing it for others. And it's weird. Or people, and I'm sure you have friends like that. They got no problem telling you about your marriage or your business or what you should do. But like, hey man,
that's probably a lot of people listening too.
Hey, right. But I wonder, like, hey, is your need to tell me that really? Are you really want to talk to yourself and say things that you need to hear about yourself? And that's you just subconsciously just secreting that, but you're not aware enough to realize that you should be taking your own advice.
Yeah. I think it's twofold, man. I think a lot of it is that, but then on the more positive side is it's somebody that has been through that, and they're telling you have a genuine place of learning. Hey, I've been through that and I've learned that. But usually you can tell in the delivery what the difference is.
I've learned it too, man. Like, unsolicited advice is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
If somebody comes for advice, like if I come to you for advice and you're like, hey man, or even if I don't, but you go, hey, man, I've been through that. Do you mind if I, give you my opinion? I give permission that's a great place to be. And if you've got some things to say because you've been through it, cool. That could be a great conversation. I think I'm hitting more on the unsolicited advice. No, I've done that before in real estate where it was kind of needed and the person just didn't take it so well.
Yeah.
But I've also had those times where like subconsciously I just volunteer unsolicited advice and it's like, man, like, is there anything I could take from what the fuck I just said to someone else that maybe I could be better at? Mm-hmm. Like that self-awareness. And before you know it, the more you become self-aware, the less you stop being so excited to give unsolicited advice, and you're just a little bit more patient. You've got a little bit more integrity with the platform, and just understanding if somebody wants to hear you like that. That conversation has to be in a place where they're open to hearing you.
Yeah, it's received. Yeah, but man, as far as people wearing the weight, I saw this a lot in fitness too, to where people would get so caught up in the minutia of a diet. I don't know, just too caught up in logging their food, or act like they're too caught up in logging their food, or act like they're, just all these stupid questions that just aren't relevant. Like they're relevant, but they're not relevant. And as far as like wearing other people's weight, I kind of feel like it's one of those things. Like if you're occupying yourself, being involved in other people's problems, you don't have to address your own. Like it's a way of kind of just pushing off the inevitable, what you need to do, which is just eat less and move more, from the weight loss side of it, and just handle your own shit. It's easier. And here's the bad part of it is you also look like you're doing the right thing. You look like you're trying to help somebody. You look like you're trying to offer your time to somebody else. And you are. So on the outside, it looks like you're this good person, you're doing this thing. Yeah. But on the inside, it's like, man, you're just, like you said, you're given this unsolicited advice and you feel good about doing it, but you're also not addressing your own shit. And it gets weird, man, when you're not selfishly putting yourself first.
I think, yeah. And obviously we're right now we're talking in the context of like, where does the weight come from?
Right.
Like, what is it in the first place?
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of, so you're talking like in fitness world, like people decide to do a show or just go on a diet and get themselves in shape. They voluntarily start taking on weight by like over-tasking themselves with these non-important tasks to look productive to their trainer or to feel
like you're doing something.
And I think some of that's natural because like when you come into something new, a new diet, a new business endeavor, you're coming into real estate or you're taking on a new thing, bow hunting or diet. I think you're doing what you think you're supposed to be doing.
And it's exciting.
Yeah, and I think you somewhat naturally try to take on a certain image or role because you're trying to somewhat fit in.
Yeah.
Also see how you fit in over time. So I can kind of understand. I wore a tie when I first started real estate.
Yeah.
It wasn't because I was trying to fit in or just like to a point where it was toxic, but like I just hadn't gotten my feet wet yet. So I'm going to go and just do what I think is correct. And I think a lot of people do that. So I wonder like, hey,
that's the right way to do it too.
I think so. Yeah. And you've got to figure out what works for you. And I think you just kind of have to like find these tasks and figure out like, hey, what's working, what's not working. So I think it's somewhat inevitable that you're going to add some of that workload onto you. And some of that workload, like when we talk to Tosh and he talks about that extreme adventure he's got where he does it in the middle of Montana in the middle of winter and you got to pull a sled. How much weight is on that sled? And he says, like, hey, over time and over several times of doing it, that sled's gotten a lot lighter and a lot more productive with the weight that's on it.
That's 100% it.
I'm going to leave that kind of be because I think he could speak way more to that, and I'd love to get his opinion on this topic. So I'm going to kind of not go too far because I've never done that adventure. But I can imagine it's through experience and advice from people you respect to kind of build like what weight goes on there. But at first, there's going to be a lot more that's needed. So then there's needed. So same thing in business or when you're trying to like get motivated about, going on a diet or transforming your body, you're going to take on this role and these objectives that you think are necessary. It's your ability to take advice from the people that you respect or should respect and your ability to just process in real time, like what's working and not working and what needs time and what does not, what needs to be addressed, what does not, and quickly get some things off of that sled so you're not pulling so much for so long.
Man, I'm glad you said that, because I don't want people to think, if you feel like we're talking to you, not to take offense, because also like, this is just part of the learning curve.
Yeah.
And I think it's also a necessity that you go through this. And like, here's something that we see, I think a lot of like using real estate as an example, a lot of moms getting into real estate. If you were a new mom, or you've been a mom, for your adult life, and you're used to wearing the weight of your children because you kind of have to, like when your children are sick, you feel it. When your children are hurt, you feel it. When your children are hungry, you feel it. And, it's your job to make sure that, you're not putting yourself first, right? That children come first. But then let's say children get to a certain age and you're getting into real estate, maybe it's a new career, but you're so used to wearing other people's problems and trying to be the problem solver that you're still continuing to do that in real estate, and you're wearing your clients' emotions, and maybe your clients miss out on a property and it messes you up, right? Like we see that a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. And then, so maybe they just started, maybe if you feel like you're carrying other people's problems, other people's weight, it might have just come from a place of necessity where maybe it served you for a time. And maybe it's just time to graduate out of that and realize that, like I said earlier, if you're not being selfish and putting yourself first, man, you're going to end up dragging everybody else down. And it happens time and time again.
I agree. So I think in addition to understanding, especially if you're new, you're going to be taking on a lot of weight. Mm-hmm. A lot of that will end up being unnecessary. But everybody has to figure that out on their own in real time. And you've got to figure out your tools that allow you to process all of that and then rapidly or adequately get rid of weight as it's not needed. As you get better at that, this is also evolving, right? Like this is something that never goes away. It's not like, this sled that you're dragging per se. It just is what it is. It's not like weight's going to come and go. You're going to have business growth. You're going to have other responsibilities. Maybe you get married. Maybe you get a dog. I don't know, whatever your life looks like. In addition to that, once you learn how to get your weight where it needs to be and you've got that good flow, step 2 is really figuring out, as weight comes and goes, what weight should I be wearing and not wearing? Mm-hmm. As in, should I be wearing client stress? Mm-hmm. Sometimes yes, because sometimes you fuck up and maybe you need to, or maybe it's not even about that. Just understanding this is the most expensive sell or expensive purchase or both that this person has gone through in their entire life to date up until this point, right? And more times than not, when people are buying and selling homes, it's the most expensive purchase of their life or the most expensive sell and then repurchase of their life. It's okay to wear some of that. You're a professional, but you've got to make sure the weight vest you're carrying or the sled you're pulling allows for enough room to where when you pick up another sale or you pick up another buyer, there's room on that sled for your necessary weight. If you've got too much bullshit and you're walking around with too much weight and then you've got 2 clients, but if you take on any more, you're screwed. Problem. And we've seen it. And you and I have gone through it from having 1 client to having 10 clients to we had like 16 or 17 under contract simultaneously just between you and I, not even counting the team, just between you and I.
Yeah.
And we didn't even have 1 fight. And I was kind of bored. I kind of want to fight you over something. Yeah. But there was some stress. And but we handled it well because we had enough experience where we knew, hey, we already know we got a Santa Claus sleigh right now, dude. This thing is way overpacked. Our systems were in place. We had great systems, great processes. And if we kind of felt something, we had enough intuition to go back to the drawing board and go through. And man, we were old school. Whiteboard, 100 clients on that list. And we were writing it down and updating because that's how you and I communicate together. You're very good on computers and CRMs and all that. I'm a write it down kind of guy. In order for you and I to communicate, to be on the same page, those whiteboards just work great for us to communicate and then figure out whose responsibilities are what and then put yours on a computer. If I'm putting mine on a notebook, fine, do whatever you got to do for your responsibilities. But the whiteboards were great for you and I to communicate and be on the same page. But we knew like if we felt a little shaky or if we were even, man, there were days where we would kind of start having a conversation like, hey, how's so-and-so or this? And hey, you know what, dude, before the podcast, because that's secondary, let's get to the whiteboard. Yeah. Let's just go line by line and make sure everybody is damn taken care of. But I promise you, like you and I had to have enough freed up space on our sleds to even process that. And then without losing our shit, say that, get back, look at it. And then some of them, man, like, hey, cool, these are closing in 2 days. So cool. So that weight's going to be gone. And you just got to get really good. It's almost like if you want to imagine that sled or a weight vest or playing Tetris and the little dots connecting and you got to knock some off before it gets to the top. Is that Tetris? What is that game?
Yeah, I think so.
Where the shapes
that
find
Tetris,
themselves, and if you connect enough, then they go away. And you have more space at the top. Whatever your analogy is. But the biggest thing is look at your life right now. What type of weight that is just unwarranted, unneeded, that you have that could just go away right now? Weight could be bills, It could be business partners, business friends, personal partners, personal friends. It could be some of your daily routine that's just not productive. It's toxic.
Or lack of daily routine.
Or lack of daily routine, right?
Most
Like
likely the
assess.
case, yeah.
So I would say, like, because I know we've got some other topics we want to cover, but in regards to like carrying the weight, just assess you right now with everything that I just spoke about, and where do you sit with that? In addition to that, so you get it down to bare bones, and you've got this sled. But if that sled with everything on it is necessary now, hey, Will, this is my pack and load. This is what I gotta have. All right, like a pack, and you got a gear list, right? And like you're throwing that pack on. This is your combat load. And if you get down to your combat load right now, but your combat load is still so heavy that if you take on anything new, it's too heavy, you're not ready to grow in business. Mm-hmm. You're not ready to grow in life. There's no space, man. Mm-hmm. Right? So you've got to figure out, like, hey, not only can I get it down to bare boned, what could I sacrifice to free up some space to take on more to grow? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Those are kind of like my 2 cents that I want you guys to focus on this. And maybe we'll even do a second podcast down the road, a couple episodes later, and come back to this. But assessing your load right now, what's in your pack, right? What's in that thing? Way too much, things you don't need, things that aren't productive, distractions, right? Like if we're getting combat load and you got makeup or Scrabble or your whatever in that, I think everyone gets what I'm getting at. Yep. Get it down your combat load to be combat effective, right? Like, but if that load is still too big, what could you sacrifice in that pack to have enough space to take it on? Or maybe you don't have to sacrifice anything, but the bottom line is, if you guys are growing as an entrepreneur in business, you cannot be walking around at a stress level 8 or 9 because you're carrying so much weight around that the second you take on any unknown circumstances or new endeavors, you're stressed, you're at a 9. And look, guys, even good stress can be overwhelming. Right? Like, you watch celebrities, Hollywood folks, a lot of highly successful people commit suicide. Mm-hmm. Understand business opportunities also have obligations attached to them. So good stressors are still stressors. Your body's still reacting to it. I'm not saying that stressors are bad. Not at all. What I'm saying is you've got to figure out how to just ride that up and flow of it and take more when it's warranted and understand how to go through that, but also just allow yourself consistently to be freed up to where you're in a mental space where you have the energy to do that. Because if you are trying to grow, and we talk about how do you have more energy in business, how are you going to go all day and then into the evening or night with other opportunities if your pack is so damn heavy you can't carry it for 4 hours?
That's the thing. I'm really glad that you started off on this topic, and that's why I was saying I think people are going to be surprised, because instantly they'll think we'll jump into like supplements and sleep and workouts and stuff like that. But like Will just said, man, if you have a bunch of just useless weight on that vehicle, you got to get that off first before you start improving that vehicle, because then you're just gonna, you're not gonna be hitting your potential.
And Diesel Day was a huge thing for me.
Yeah, it was.
I did Diesel Day at 248 pounds, right? So, and I'm not bragging. Oh man, I completed that at 248. I feel proud that I completed it. Whether I'm heavy or not, it is what it is. And that day was about performance, right? And when we talked with Tosh, it was like, hey, somebody's holding a gun to your family's head right now.
What can
you perform right now?
Right.
Not can you perform as a big guy.
Yeah.
Not can you perform as a little guy. Not can you perform as a medium guy. Not can you perform as a flat-footed guy. Not can you perform as a guy who trained with a lot of running but didn't do any hiking. Nope. Right now it's on the line. Right? Same thing with being combat effective. If a police officer goes down and he's 248 pounds, can I drag him? I can't wish he were 150.
Yep.
He's 248 plus his gear. He's a 300-pound person right now with his gear. Can I cowboy up and drag this dude to safety? Period. Am I strong enough physically? Am I strong enough mentally? Am I prepared physically and mentally? Okay, like, yes or no?
Yeah.
This just happened, yes or no? Diesel Day was a very long but short window of you're here to perform. Can you do it physically and mentally? Yeah. And we're going to put you through all of this physically to find out where you're at mentally as well as physically, because you're going to break, right? And just how do you combat that? How do you handle it? And it was there for nothing but you to have those conversations with yourself, right? So I love that because it's just real, man. So it wasn't about me doing it at 248. It was, but let me say this. It did shed some light on like, man, I'm heavier than I'd like. Hey, I performed that day and I did all 24 hours nonstop, right? No sleep. You eat and you eat on the move. You're trying to recover the best you can with 6-7 minutes in between, different endeavors with ice buckets and rolling out whatever you're doing. Cool, but it was nonstop. But now, so it's done. Now I'm not thinking about being heavy while I'm there. I'm thinking about getting it done and performing. But now that it's done and you run an after action report on yourself, it's like, hey, cool, you brought this much weight to the event. Was that much weight needed in order to perform optimum? No, I feel like, hey, if I'm lighter and I'm still strong, I wonder if I could perform better. Right. And then you've got that whole thing of like, well, don't lose too much weight too quick, because then you're not, you're 25 pounds lighter, but you got no energy.
Right.
You're not strong. Right?
Right.
So there's this whole thing of like how to dial in your performance. And if you do want to taper down in weight, when we're talking about performance, hey, what does that look like? Well, what does it look like? That gave me something superficial, physical. That gave me something physical to take home and then work on. Correct.
Yep.
And I love it. And then obviously I have got some things mental. Hey, regardless of weight, regardless of whatever, like, hey, where were you at mentally through this? Because there's other mental things you go through in that beyond just whether you're light or heavy. There's just things in conversations you have with yourself.
Well, it don't matter at that
on the
point.
mental side.
Yeah.
Because you're performing. But what I'm saying is I was able to take some things away.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is right now you have a moment to take some things away. So the reason why I started with this weight vest everyone is carrying around all day, every day, or this sled or this pack on your back, however you want to like imagine this, is because this is something you've been carrying around for a while. This is something you can assess right now, process it, write it down, cut the fat, right? Cut the fat off of all of this steak, leave the meat and leave that bone. Any unnecessary, unneeded fat, any fat that's good but could be sacrificed can go. Now we've got to your actual workload, and this is where you're going to be freed up and actually have the energy to go be proficient. Phase 2 is like, okay, now we got to teach you how to be proficient and take action on things that create progress.
Now, one exercise that I've seen you do with multiple people and do yourself and walk me through too that I think is super helpful for people is when you're feeling that, and maybe just after this podcast, if we got you thinking about what weight am I wearing that maybe is unnecessary or something, pen and paper, write down line by line every little thing that's bothering you that you feel like is a weight that's just constantly in the back of your head, whether it's debt, your mom's health, your children's education, whatever that is, your brother-in-law is addicted to drugs, whatever it is. Write all of that down line by line. I've seen
personal
a
and
bunch
professional.
of people, personal and professional. And then process of elimination, go through line by line. Is there anything Eli can do about this today or right now? Well, no, my brother's addicted to crack and this and that. No, I can't. Man, I'll pray for him.
But I want to help him get to rehab. Okay. What does it take to get him to rehab? Money. Cool.
And him wanting to go to rehab.
Well, that too, but you can't control that.
Right,
but
exactly.
You can control trying to go out and get an income. Hey, cool. So now if you got something that's a stressor, hey, cool, but we've attached an objective to that, right? And then, your car payment, or hey, you want a bigger home for your family because you just had your third kid, but you're in a townhome with 1 bedroom, and cool. In your stressors, there might be 3 or 4 things that really just come down to like, hey, man, if you're financially in a better place, you're going to have more options. And I don't care what anybody says. Listen to me. Financial freedom or financial success, I'm not saying that it makes you happy. I'm not even a millionaire, billionaire to be even speaking on that level. What I will say is, from my experience so far in life, it definitely doesn't make me happy. However, financial success gives me options. Okay, if I want to buy a bigger house and move my in-laws in because they're getting older, or one of them just needs a main level master bedroom and can't do stairs, or if some in-laws or some family members overseas are having a hard time and I want to send some money to them to help them out and buy some computers for their kiddos. If I want to help my family member get into rehab, if I want, whatever it may be, being financially successful gives you options.
It does.
Do whatever you have to do to get yourself to the next step that gives you more options. Eli and I in business have several more options and quality options than we did when we first started. When you and I first started, we were just trying to get a deal. What can we do to build our brand, build who we are as people, do the best that we can for people that are right in front of us? And it was about, hey, what's the next deal? And that's all we were focused on. Now, there's a slew of different things that we're doing right now, and we're prepared for them. But we did what we had to do to get to the next step. And that next step, that next level presented a couple of more options.
And more problems too.
And more problems. But so on and so forth. So when we talk about like your finances, understand, or when we talk about stresses of somebody needing rehab or whatever it may be, understand that you going out and grinding and having an objective of financial success, it does allow you to have more options. It does allow you to mitigate and handle some of these things in your life that you'd like to address that make you feel good that you're helping. And I feel good when I help people. Sometimes it's financially, not all the time, but when I do, it does feel good. So I just don't want to negate this whole money thing and make it look ugly. And it's not. It's not. It doesn't have to be. But you're right, man. Like writing these things down personally and professionally, everything that's on that plate, and then just figuring out, okay, like, hey, is there anything I can do about some of these right now? And if the answer is no,
75% of them you won't be able to.
Right, let them go. The ones that you can, okay, don't. And I'm not, hey, when you find out the ones, yes, there is something I can do right now. Don't try to have the solution. Don't talk to me about winning the war, okay? I'm not talking to you about winning the war and how we're going to win the war. This battle right here, this firefight right in front of you right here, what can you do right now to influence and come out of that on top? Right. And if you can repeat that behavior through everything that you've got in your workload, you're going to be extremely successful, and you're going to free up some of that weight to go out and attack more. You're also going to have options to attack.
Yeah. Very true, man. And on that list too, guys, like we said, 75% of the things you're not going to be able to do anything about. And then there's other things like, let's say, financially and workload that you do have control over that you do want to start taking on. Guess what? You need to physically be in a place to where you're able to do that, and you actually have the physical energy. So this might be a good segue to get into the physical energy side of it.
Yes. So understand, we've been talking about this pack or this sled that you're pulling. No, I've never pulled that. That was an analogy that I was using from Brian Shantosh's one of his extreme endeavors. But if it helps you imagine pulling a sled versus a plated carrier or even a pack, this big old pack on your back. Cool. We've been talking about the weight there and how to cut the weight as best as you can and only have things that are productive and needed on that. Okay, cool. Now let's get into the vehicle itself.
Yep.
Cool. So we're gonna, or like a race car. Cool. We stripped all the way out of that race car, so it's as light as possible. Cool. But now let's talk about the race car itself.
That engine, man.
Or hey, you're carrying that plate carrier. You're pulling that sled. You're carrying that pack, that combat load. Cool. Now let's talk about the person carrying that pack, and are you prepared to carry that? What are you doing for yourself? Right. This is where diet, rest, and I promise you, alleviating a lot of stress out of that pack is going to already just make you a better person, right?
Yeah.
But in addition to that, I'm guessing you're talking about, hey, what are you doing for your own person, you as an individual, before you even put that pack on for the day? How prepared are you, correct?
Yeah, man, and you know, I guess to put it bluntly, and hopefully this doesn't turn people off because it'll sound a little extreme, but it's hard fucking work, man. And you know, when you're kicking your own ass, or you've got someone kicking your ass, you know, first thing in the morning, or you know, whenever you're productive. I like in the morning, not super early anymore. I'm more productive like a little bit later in the morning and can do more ass kicking. But man, once you're done with that, dude, and you just get that energy out, just that, you know, those, like, I picture just like frayed electrical cords. You know, electrical like runs too hot for the outlet, you know, and it's just frayed, it's overrun, it's too hot. Like, it just gets that energy out of there. And man, going on to face the rest of the day, dude, when, you know, you're not getting choked out by your client, you know, physically choked out. You're not, you know, you don't have 300 pounds sitting on your chest physically. You know, that figurative weight doesn't feel nearly as heavy.
Strong body, strong
after
mind.
You've had that physical weight. And here's the thing I like about it too. I've always had a really hard time with meditation, and I think a lot of people have their different forms of meditation, whether they know it's meditation or not. I've always considered
masturbation. Does that count?
No.
Fuck.
I've always considered physical, like weight training. As I'll call it forced meditation, because when you're under that squat that squat bar, when you have that weight on your chest and you're trying to physically not die, you're not thinking about bills, you're not thinking about debt, you're not thinking about your girlfriend, you're thinking about getting that 300 pounds or like 180 pounds in my case off your fucking chest. I mean, that's literally all you're thinking about. That's what meditation is. It's being right here, like being at one, you're not thinking about shit.
Right.
That's forced meditation right there.
It is. Well, and just, I'm big into fitness for like the mental
Yeah.
dedication. You know, like I'm kind of a bigger guy. And
That's probably your meditation.
Yeah, big time. That or driving. I love driving it. And I think genetically, I'm just kind of a bigger guy. Man, I graduated high school at 205 pounds. So I think genetically, I'm a bigger guy. Obviously, your size is also predicated on your diet, right? So I'm not shy with food, right? Definitely don't want to go to waste.
Shy with food.
Speaking of Tosh, when we were out in Idaho, any spare food that was laying around, he's just eating. He's like, hey, you gonna eat these donuts? Like, we can't just throw them out. Like, we gotta eat them. I'm like, oh shit, fuck yeah, I'm gonna eat that donut.
A lot of food there too.
There was, and I try to just keep myself with a good window. I know when I'm slacking. I know when I need to dial it in, and I like intermittent fasting windows. I like fasting for 16 hours, and that's hard mentally, but I kind of like to challenge myself mentally. So I like the windows. I'm also a little bit more lenient on counting my calories, because when you're in a fasted window, one, you're only going to be able to eat so much in that window. Secondly, when you are eating, I'm a little bit more aware of what I'm eating, because I've got to get a certain amount of protein in, and I don't want to overdo the carbohydrates.
Dude, and that's unnecessary weight. With as much shit as we got going on, the last thing you need to be do is fucking logging calories.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's cutting weight right there.
Well, that's just right. That's also knowing like I'm not going to do that, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I come from the physical fitness world a little bit different than Eli. I come from like a professional athlete background, a physical performance in the Marine Corps background, a physical performance as an officer, and then, you know, now just the Diesel Day was a physical performance. So I'm a little bit more driven as far as that, and how I feel versus, you know, counting the calories. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be counting calories. I think what I'm trying to get at is you got to have some self-awareness. I know with every bone in me, unless it's absolutely necessary, I'm not counting calories. Yeah. I'm not going to do 7 meals a day. I'm not going to count the calories, but I will do intermittent fasting. I tend to eat the same things throughout my day, especially throughout the week. So just by being in fitness long enough, like I know how much 6 ounces of chicken gives me. I know what a cup of rice is. Yeah. So I'm good there. You know, but you're right, onion distress. But for me, just fueling my body is good, but the workouts is where I kind of clear my head mentally, and it just, man, like the endorphins that you get from that and the energy that you get after just having a good workout with a good sweat to it and some good music. I do my workouts in the morning. It just prepares me, and I'm not a morning guy. I used to be a 4 or 5 p.m. guy. Now I'm a morning guy. Yeah. But I feel like it just prepares me for my day, puts me in a good mood. Just, hey, if I can push that hard in my workout, cool. I'm ready to tackle my day. I've just put myself through something physical and mental. That was, if it was hard, if it was a good workout, if it was a productive workout, hey, cool. I just set the tone for the day. Mm-hmm. We're going to crush the day now. Yep. And if you can make that a habit, I suggest that you should.
Now, you know, in all honesty, it's not always going to be that workout. Like a lot of workouts, I have to all right, come on. You can't not do this, dude. Come in. And then sometimes you do just go through the motions, and then sometimes it does just feel like you're just barely pushing the weight. But man, I know the repercussions of, you know, maybe that workout didn't move me forward, but I know every workout I like consciously don't do is move me backwards for sure. And it's like, man, if I'm not moving forward, at least I'm not going backwards. And I think that's what a lot of people can do. If you're waiting for that, like, oh man, I feel like shit after my workout. Yeah, sometimes you feel like you got hit by a truck. Yeah. But man, I know what I feel like not working out for a couple days, and that's definitely not good.
You get super cranky. I get super cranky.
It's not good.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because the elephant in a lot of rooms is when people that are, you know, motivational speakers or people that are getting after it, they're always talking about like the get after it side. Not the realistic, man, there's going to be some days where you're just struggling and it's just monotonous. Yeah. Right, with just redundant shit that just has to get done, or your energy is super low, and I, you know, I think the best of us have that, and you know, like Brian Shantosh just had the podcast, Self Talk, not too long ago.
Yep, Crooked Butterfly for those of you who looked for that podcast.
Crooked Butterfly podcast. He just did one on self talk, and like we think of that guy being like extraordinary, you know, and a lot of great things, and he talked about self-talk and things that he says to himself, and then ways that he rewards himself after barely doing it. And you hear that and you're like, man, that guy is real. Like, oh shit. you struggle like we all struggle. He's just able to like process those things and do the best that he can. Like when he is putting in his time, it's deliberate and it's super successful. But he still has days that are just, you just can't get out of the blocks. You're just spinning your wheels, and I think the best thing too is like, hey, feel that, because we have them, dude. We have days, man, where like we've not even done a podcast, and I'm just like, hey, dude, it ain't happening today, you know. Or you say it, or some days where it's like, hey, man, let's take a day. I think I did one where I took a day and like just went and slept by myself at a hotel for like 3 hours, and I just went home to just get to a dark room and just decompress, you know. And first and foremost, you gotta, this is where self-awareness and the integrity you have with you is so important, because if you're doing that way too frequently, it's not going to help. You're giving yourself an out. And this is where you have to be so hard and so critical of yourself with expectations, man, because you don't want to be giving yourself an out. You don't want to like allow that to become a landslide, and before you know it, like all you do is take breaks. You got to be super hard on yourself, but you got to know, like, or if you've got a partner, you know, like when I say that, hey man, taking a day, I don't get any question from Eli. If there's something that absolutely has to be addressed, hey man, can we do this? And then cool. If that was the case, yep, we'll do it. You know, but he doesn't question me, because I'm super hard on myself, and I feel like I put the work in. But when you're having a day like that, you've got to like, okay, feel it. Let me just sit down for a minute. Feel it and just recognize it's here. I've done everything I can this morning to combat that. It's not going anywhere. I actually felt it creeping up on me yesterday and the day before, but I got through the days. Today is day 3. It's still not going anywhere, and it's here. Cool. Address it. Be proud of yourself that you got through the other 2 days. Feel it, address it, and go, okay, here I am. Cool. Taking a day. Trying to just boil down like where it's coming from. Yeah. For me, I look at my diet, and I'm not super strict on my diet, but if I'm getting just way too junky, it's pretty fucking obvious, right? But I look at my diet, I look at my water intake, I look at my sleep, and I look at my workout schedule. And I'll write some things down if I have to, like, hey, how much water did I have today? If it's early morning, okay, how much water did I have yesterday, the day before? And I promise you, hydration is one of those things you never notice it when you're hydrated. You notice it when you're not.
Can you hit those key points again?
Yep. So how's my diet? How's my water intake? How's my sleep? How's my workouts?
Here's why that's important. Because people, when you're feeling a certain way, if you don't have some points of reference to go back to, like, for example, your car. If your car starts steaming when you're driving down the highway, you're okay. Is the check engine light on? No. How's my oil pressure gauge looking? Right? Is the car pulling weird? And there's kind of a thing.
First and foremost, if your car's smoking, that's you feeling it. Pull over and stop.
Yep.
Stop. Sit down. Get out of the smoking car. And then process it. Yeah.
Exactly. Go through that checklist, and it's like if you don't have that checklist to go to, you're not going to know any point of reference. Sorry to go back to fitness, but when my clients were logging their food, and if people had a serious goal, I just had them log their food. And here's why. Because if we're not getting results, if I can't go reference anything,
you can't troubleshoot.
What do we change?
Yeah.
Right. If there's nothing to reference. So sleep, water, workouts, all that's at your nutrition.
And if they're new, if they're new to it, they don't know how to like do that by memory.
Yeah.
They just don't.
Yeah,
like once they've been working out for 5, 6, 10 years, you can wing a lot of it because you've got some control measures, like Eli carries around a gallon of water. Because when it's empty at the end of the day, he drank a gallon of water today, right? Like things like that. I'm being, that's a very simplistic form. There's a lot more to it than just that. But when you're super new, you're not going to know what you're missing unless you've created a habit to write some things down to see where the gaps are at. But those are my references, man. How's my diet? How's my water intake? How's my sleep? How are my workouts? More times than not, it's one of those 4, or this pinky here, the last one that I've got on my hand. There's something in my life that's fucking nagging me. There's something with my mom. There's something with a relationship. There's some unsolved business fucking picking at me. And it's uneasy. Either I feel bad about it and I want to do more about it, or it was a conversation that just didn't go well and I want to like mend that, or hey, I'm not apologizing for anything. I wasn't wrong, but I want to clear the air and make sure that they understood. So that's sometimes my weakness, right? It's like I want to solve a ton of stuff, and I've had to realize, like, man, like you only control half of that, what you'd like to do about it, but the other person has to be receptive, or the situation has to allow for you to even re-involve yourself in it in the first place. But recognizing that makes me a lot more reluctant on what I say and how I behave with people, because this one right here, man, some unfinished business with someone or a conversation that could have been better, man, I'm a Care Bear. That bugs the shit out of me more than water, diet, sleep, food, sex. Yeah. Nope. This one, lack of sex, what, like this one here, unfinished business with people, conversation that could have gone better, somebody just being in a bad place, like that messes with me more than anything. So how I addressed that was just knowing like, hey man, that's just me. I'm a Care Bear. I got a big heart. That's me. So what I did to combat that was I'm just a lot more patient. If I'm going to be direct with someone, if I'm going to say some things I need to say, if I'm going to decide to involve myself in a situation or a project, I'm more reluctant, not because I care less. I'm more reluctant. So if it doesn't go how it should, I'm at peace. Yeah. And it's not fucking nagging me. Yeah. But you know, a lot of people that carry a lot of stress or they're toxic, or you say some things that you shouldn't say and you kind of feel bad afterward. Not that I'm saying that was my problem, but or a conversation just could have gone better, but you just didn't give it the patience that it required, or somebody had a misunderstanding and they just got the wrong word across to them and now they think illy of you or something you're about. It's that. But if you're good and you're patient at where you put the energy and how you're putting it and you're not careless, if something that's out of your control goes a certain way and somebody has a certain opinion of you or whatever it may be, it doesn't, like, that doesn't bother me as much anymore because I'm giving so much care and attention to how I'm doing it in the first place. Yeah. One, it very rarely happens. Two, if it does happen, man, I'm so at peace with it because I think it's like, man, that's just that person though.
Well, and you're such an energetic person too, that I think, you're being more selective about who gets your energy and what they get your energy for. You know what I mean? Because here's the thing too, that other thing, it could even be a positive thing, but maybe it's just draining and it just takes energy.
Dude, it just takes energy. Stressors, man. Yeah. Right. So you're right. So, but that was always my fifth one, man. So diet, hydration, sleep, workouts, something here with a relationship, a business relationship, a personal relationship, something's there. And a lot of times it'd be like, okay, well, we'll call it and solve it. No. Hey, look, here's what we're going to do. Go get a workout, okay? And get your fucking blood flowing and get some energy out and process some thought, write some things down, and then we'll go maybe attack this. So some of these other fundamentals I still use before I even attack this one. But, man, having a point of reference for yourself is super huge because if you feel yourself kind of coming off the rails a little bit and you're like, okay, yep, it's there. It's been creeping for 2 days. It's here. I'm taking a day. If you're not taking that day to be productive, I think that's when you just become habitual and you start taking days. And then that habitual behavior becomes your resolve when you're in a bad mood or when you're uncomfortable or don't like something. You're just like, who cares? Yeah. And the people like want to walk off during arguments or slam doors. I'm over it. Yeah. It's that right there. It's that habitual behavior where you have no tools to deal with something that's stressful. Yeah. You have no tools to deal with something that maybe you should be correcting yourself on, and you've never had any recourse for yourself to go back to, that you can't handle that. Yeah. Problem in business, problem as a parent, problem if you're going to have a relationship. It can't be that fuck it, the hell with it, and you throw your hands up and you walk off. Like, no, because not only are you doing that to everybody else, you're doing it to yourself. So again, when you need a day, be productive with that day and come back to some point of reference for yourself and just analyze what's going on. I promise you that's going to help you in relationships and business and everything else. It's also going to help you take less and less of those days because you're going to catch some of that stuff where it's not such a big deal where you have to take a day to identify it. You just know that your diet's off or you haven't been getting sleep for the past 2 days and you correct it. And then that third or fourth day, you're on it and you didn't have to take a day to process everything. You recognized right away what it's been and you handle it. Man,
that's a skill set in itself, being able to, the self-awareness aspect. Something that I started doing, I don't know if it was like late middle school, like young, man, like high school, where I almost started pretending that there's like for someone that doesn't watch sports, it's kind of funny that I do this, almost like a commentator, right? Who's in my head, but watching me, right? It's not me. It's me, but it's not me. And just kind of watching and then making little comments, about the players down there. So, for example, if I catch myself consciously skipping a workout or lying to myself saying I don't have time to work out when I do have 20 minutes, I could go downstairs and do pull-ups and burpees and push-ups. I hear that little commentator just be like, oh, yeah, he's taking a break. Hey, he's got to watch that, or that's going to catch up on him. You know, like just these little comments that are like totally outside of me, but part of me. But it's a real good way to have
your conscience,
to have kind of an external point of view. And I think people really need that external. Even if I'm in a fight with Megan, man, and it's been more and more as far as like, oh, he's getting upset over nothing. You know, we were talking about Sunday. You know, Megan, it's a productive Sunday. I'm in like, cool. I got caught up on so much shit I need to do around the house. I got caught up on work stuff. Great day. And watching Elijah and doing all that stuff. Megan was doing TikToks and shit all day, but I'm watching her, and it's like there's a second where I thought about saying something about it. But I'm watching her, and she's happy. She's doing her makeup. She's getting her little outfits on. I can tell she's enjoying herself. And I'm like, I could bitch about working. I could bitch about being babysitting. I could bitch about having real work to do. So many things I could bitch about, but I'm like, man, she's happy. She's doing her thing. Let her do her thing, you know? And then the compound effect of that is when she's done with all of that, she's fucking all about Eli. And I didn't even have to say anything. Eli didn't have to say shit because I know she knows. She knows I know. And it's this whole thing. And she's so grateful. And then she's making dinner that night. And Eli, I'm so appreciative you did all this today. Hey, what can I do for you tonight? You know, and it all came around.
Like,
but,
remember that TikTok outfit?
Dude, but I heard that. I heard that commentator in that TikTok week. I heard that commentator in my head just be like, "Oh, he's thinking about it. What's he thinking? Oh, yeah, he better not do it."
Well, just picking your battles, man. Just picking your battles and just figuring out, like, hey, why? Okay, am I doing all of this stuff in spite of, or just hey, because it needs to get done, and I'm just gonna get it done and feel accomplished.
Is it gonna? It's unneeded stress, man. You know, and you've helped me become much more aware about. I'll stress myself out, you know, like how you kind of wear, you know, if you had a conversation or something that, you know, whatever you're thinking about, I will do that just with Eli, you know, to where it's like, I'll have just a to-do list in my head of shit that I have to do, but will I sit down and just bang shit out real quick? No, I'll procrastinate about it and just let myself get stressed out about it. Last night, I was feeling that a little, even last night, man, this is why it's always a work in progress.
Yeah.
I was feeling that even a little bit last night. You know what I did? I took 20 minutes, sat at the computer before bed, at the kitchen table, answered like 15 emails that were unchecked in my head.
We had 15 emails?
Yeah.
I didn't see one of them.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, fuck, stressful, right? But dude, man. Like it literally under 20 minutes, a few sentences to everybody. Cool, enter, cool, enter. Schedule 2 Zoom calls. Cool, done. Hey, Eli, asshole. That took 20 minutes, bro. And you've been thinking about that shit for 2 days.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Oh, so what you are saying is that you're 2 days behind.
Crazy
emails for business.
There were two emails from the weekend. Yes.
Well, yeah, and like it's you know, some of those things it's nice to check off because it's like you got to give yourself little wins to build some momentum and things like that. And a lot of like what we do in business, man, like the big wins are so abstract and you never know where they're going to come from. You just got to stay the course. How do you stay the course and stay motivated? Well, some of those little wins are good, man. Like when you've got some black and white things, hey, I've got this that's bothering me. I could take 20 minutes to complete it. Man, that's a win. It's not this gray area. It's not you talking yourself into a win. It's not you figuring out how you can self-talk this into a positive to just feel good and go at it again another day. Like, no, man, like it's very black and white. And a lot of you feeling accomplished, I feel, sometimes does come from the black and white. Like sometimes you need a day away from me where you're like, hey man, we've got this stuff admin wise. I just got to take a day and get this list. I'm like, cool. And then mine is just a little bit more sailing. Like mine is just a little bit more influential. And as things come and just like I kind of pick and choose where I need to play some things and gather business and have some influence. And it's more of a feel. But there's there's still a lot of integrity that has to go behind that. And then there's also black and whites for me where like we just got to get some filming done. We got to get some things. And some days we don't feel like filming, but we get them done because those are the black and whites for me. Hey, all this content that you're putting out that filters people in, yep, it's hard to measure the ROI on that. Here's what's not hard to measure. If you don't do any fucking videos, you're going to get 0 coming in.
Yep. Now, great point. In business, guys, you have to identify what's going to move the fucking needle. What is your weight training? What is your workouts of the business? For us, our content, our filming, that's our weight training. Some days, like the videos are fucking great, high energy, we get through it. Other days, the videos are good, and we get through it, right? There's never a bad video or bad day that we have.
But that's also a product. Like if a video comes out super crap, we're not putting it out there.
No, and that just wouldn't happen. Yeah, we just wouldn't do that.
Just gotta make sure
but
the
that's like
quality's
the
there.
workout. There's certain things in your business, guys, to where that's going to move the needle. And you're probably so busy adjusting your website or doing different business cards or doing
But nobody's even
pointless
coming
meetings,
to your perfect website.
or they are and they're leaving because there's other things that you should be doing. Hire a web designer. You're better at face-to-face sales.
Right.
You should be doing this, but
Right.
maybe you're, for whatever reason, uncomfortable doing that, or you just don't want to because you're like Eli and you procrastinate shit, and you should be hiring out. So there's certain things in your business that do move the needle. And that's one thing we've done over the past 2 years is we've really identified where Eli moves the needle and where Will moves the needle.
Yeah.
And, it's whenever there's...
And how does that equal clients?
Yeah.
Because clients and people and relationships it's everything that matters in our business, man. Like let's just be real. We're in sales, right?
Yep.
And now, fortunately, we're in on a platform where it's very relationship driven. There has to be a lot of trust for people to use you. I love that because I feel like we do a great job earning people's trust, and we're very proficient in what we do. So I love that. But it's still sales. We don't get paid if we're not doing transactions, right? So it's a big deal, and that's where we have to, like, no matter how great things look or not look, like, we have to be making sure that client acquisition is coming in and that we're doing a great job because a lot of your clients speak for you and a lot of referrals come through because of that.
Here's what's crazy about real estate, man. And we'll talk about this because we have a lot of realtors that listen, but it's not like you're out selling cars and then, you're done with the transaction and then they're off to the finance person and then they're off to the mechanic for maintenance. No, bitch. You're the finance person. I mean, there's a lender, but you're the finance person. You're the mechanic. You're the everything.
This is why, if you guys listen to us, when I talk about Eli, we talk about being brokers. One, state of Colorado requires you to be a fully licensed broker. There are other states where you can
do have to put 2 years in though before being a broker. But it's
managing
same
broker.
license, correct? Yeah,
right. So, but other states, I'm pretty sure they just have like a state test, not a national exam, not a full broker's thing.
I don't know what the fuck
it's just
those states do,
it's just real estate. It's limited. But the bottom line is the reason why we talk about being brokers is because that's it, man. Like we broker, we bring people together to solve problems and go from A to B. And a lot of that when you're going through real estate transactions, man, it's having guys in plumbing and roofing and general contractors. Like there's just things that have to get fixed on homes. And even if you're buying the home, right? Like if you have access to guys that can do a great job at a great price, a lot of times selling agents would love your contact to get it done because if you can get it done for that price, a seller's okay to fix it and you save a deal.
Yeah.
Like there's just a lot of communication and a lot of teamwork that goes into real estate. And when you build that level of execution, you're the person they call.
Yeah.
Even after they buy the house, they have a friend that's curious, or they want some work done on the house, or their mom needs work on their house now. Hey, they call you because they know you got a guy. But that's the relationship side. Even after they're done buying the house or selling the house, they want a new deck, or they got a little bit of a plumbing issue, or one of their friends or cousins has something wrong with their house, or they have questions because they might want to refi. All they know is if they call you, you have answers, or you're gonna know a guy who has an answer.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like time consumption with that. But that's the part that really solidifies relationships that does turn into referrals, man. And it's huge. And there's been people that haven't even bought or sold a house with us yet, but we've helped them with their refis a couple times and given them advice on some other stuff. We're helping their family members sell homes right now. That's real because they trust you so much and they're appreciative of, man, we didn't even give them a seller a buy, but they're helping us with this. That's the long game. That's understanding like this is not sales, it's relationships. And it's just doing the right thing is always the right thing and helping people the best you can within the framework of which you can help them. But it matters, man. People fucking matter. And you've got to understand that.
And you can't be wearing dead weight in real estate, man.
No.
Because you're getting off one phone call where there's a terrible inspection and you know your client's not going to be down with it, or the house is just not even worth pursuing and you need to get out of it. And you just got off the phone having that phone call, but then your next phone that you're picking up before you can call that person is his first-time home buyer who's super excited to buy a house, and it's like the happiest day of their life. And it's like you really have to be able to manage those emotions. And again, if you're wearing the stress from that one phone call, this new buyer is going to be like, "What the hell, bro? Aren't you excited to help me buy a house?" Or
you know what that reminds me of, and I'm gonna have to timestamp this. However long we're on right now.
yeah.
Do you know what you just said?
What's that?
Reminds me of
What?
police work.
Talk to me about that.
you're going to go chase gang members and they're shooting each other and you're drawing guns and whatever. And then you're going to go on a fire and you're pulling people out of that. And then you're going to go on a verbal domestic. And then you're going to go on, some little old lady that can't get into her house because she fell, and you're going to help her with her groceries, to something that's also not very combative. And then you're going to go on something else that is. And like night in and night out, your calls change so much based off of whatever 911 calls are coming in. You've got to be one type of cop here and compartmentalize it and be a different kind of cop over here, man.
It's hard because those are extremes too.
Well, some of them, man, people die in car accidents and you're there and you see it, or people die on a shooting and you're there and you see it, or kids die in a fire and you're there.
Damn, bro.
But then 30 minutes later,
I'd be buying a fucking jet ski too. I'll tell you that, man.
Well, there's a whole nother thing to officers, man, and like why and where they're spending money and why they have outlets. And there's no judgment, man. I'm not judging them. But I see the holes. I'm just not sure where they come from or how to fix them for them. But I see them, and so you go through those kind of calls. But then you're going to go to a juvenile kid that's having a hard time with some drug addict parents, and yep, he broke the law, but if you're an asshole right now, you're going to be the same as his parents, and you're not going to get through to him, and you're not going to change any culture on how people feel about police officers. Even if you have a right to hook this kid or scold him or throw him in jail, is there a different approach where you could, and you just got off a call where somebody died on a car accident, whatever, and now you're with this punk kid or what you think is a punk juvenile that just knows it all and has been a bad kid. But if you don't have the patience to take a moment and dive into why he's acting out and why he's doing what he's doing in the first place, which might alter the way you treat him. If you don't have the patience for that because of all the other calls you're wearing on your shoulders and you don't see it and you're just a jerk back to him and you hook him and take him to the juvenile detention center, okay, you're not breaking the law as a cop. Like, you're doing what you have the authority to do and based off whatever call I'm hypothetically talking about right now. But you also didn't make anything better.
Right.
And that right there, when officers get great at that, they love what they do and they accept that type of workload, man, there's a lot of great influence that can happen within law enforcement. Where it contributes to real estate is what you just said. The different calls you're taking day in and day out, the different types of clients you have day in and day out, the different stressors from a great client who you love working with can also be that super stressful client during inspection or waiting on an appraisal, right? Or just those unknowns, right? So you have to manage them. We've had some great clients that had a moving truck break down day of moving and buyers were supposed to be moving in and everybody's mad. I mean, mad. I mean, mad like they want them evicted mad, and it's not even legally. You can't even do that. They're already leaving, right? Like, but if you don't have the patience and understanding to try to address that, if your tank is already full, man, you're going to blow up on that. Yeah. And that's not going to go well, and you're not being a professional. And that's what people have to understand, especially if you're listening to this podcast. Whatever you're doing as an entrepreneur, you've got to consider yourself a professional. It is not your turn to act out. It is not your turn to cry. It is not your turn to get mad at everybody. It's your turn to be a professional, advise the best that you can within your legal allowance, and to mitigate and solve a problem and mitigate stressors and mitigate people's moods who are having the right to be mad or be upset or be stressed because they're clients and they don't do this for a living. You've got to mitigate that in addition to finding a solution and executing that solution. And if your tank is full or if you're not preparing yourself mentally and physically for those endeavors, man, you're going to fail.
Yeah. Yeah. You know where I think that's important to apply to, slightly off topic, so we won't spend too much time on it, but something worth noting. As far as professional, I think there are a lot of people that are professional that are good at being a professional at what they do, but they're not good at being a professional person or father or husband. And it's like, I really try and, just look at myself as far as like with my son. First of all, myself, obligations for my workout. I have obligations and I need to be a professional with this, because if I'm not a professional with Eli, I can't be a professional for other people. And then with my son's fatherhood, like getting up 2 times last night, didn't want to fucking do it, right? He's my son. And he's not going to be 2 years old forever. You know what I mean? He's not going to need dad to come to his bedroom twice a night, very, very much longer, or very often. So it's like, I think, people should put those professional standards on themselves and even their personal side, because you do have obligations.
I think so too. And I think just instant obedience to self orders is huge, right? Like, I'd like to say more times than not, we know when it comes to things like that, getting up, getting to the workout, when you pull in the parking lot to the gym, get out of your car, get in the gym. Don't sit there for 45 minutes and give yourself an out. Yeah. When you're in bed and your son cries and he needs you to get up, don't sit there for 5 minutes and, let's see if he cries it out, when in reality, you're talking yourself out of getting up.
Yep.
But in reality, your instinct was to just get up and go, and then you talked yourself out of it. So something that's super big that just takes repetition, and I'm not sure. And I still battle it. I'm not going to sit here and act perfect. It takes repetition, and I don't know if it ever gets perfect. I think you get better at it because you reap the benefit of doing it. But I think more times than not, people know, or they have the instinct for that next right thing. Yeah, for like immediate action drills, for things like that, right? I'm not talking about planning a business. You just walk out your door and start knocking on doors. I don't mean that, but I mean just the next right thing with like your day-to-day things that you're ignoring or putting off, or like you should be pressure washing your house, or there's something broke around the house and you walk past it every time you walk in the front door, and for some reason like you've talked yourself out of it, but the first time you identified it, you had a moment to fix it. Just that instant obedience to self orders, like that intuition right there, and just nope. You got to block that. Get out of the car. Walk into the gym. Hey, the alarm goes off, and no, get up. Get downstairs to your workout, whatever you're doing at home, or your son's crying like, get up. Get it before you even have a chance to allow yourself a second thought that creeps, that talks yourself out of it. And I know these sound like simple things, but please understand, you are practicing bad habit right there. And when that does become habitual, how do you think you're going to handle like bigger tasks in life that do require several more steps and a lot more attention of the right thoughts and the right actions to be taken? Like when you're building a business, there are a lot of right steps and right actions to take that are super hard, and you don't reap benefit immediately. But if you haven't found a way to practice that in your life, why would you expect yourself to be any good at it?
It's those little things, man. Squeegeeing my shower. I swear to God, I'll write a book about squeegeeing my shower one day. The other day, but that's my parameter of like, man, I don't want to do it. Every single time I don't want to do it. Yeah. But it's a simple thing, and it's easy to walk away from, but I don't, because I know what that's going to lead to. The other day I showered. I'm normally a night shower guy, but the other day I always shower in the morning after jiu-jitsu because that's gross.
Jiu-jitsu is gross. I'm glad you said that.
I was literally about to walk out the door, fully clothed, everything. And I was like, oh, fuck, I forgot to do the shower. Genuinely forgot to squeegee the shower. My ass climbed in that shower, fully clothed. Megan's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I got to squeegee the shower.
Yeah. And guess what? It's harder when you're fully clothed and you're bringing like a spray bottle in there.
You got skinny jeans and shit. And
versus like when you're in the shower, there's some stuff you can use while you're in the shower to just get it done. You've got some of the moisture.
Got to do it though, because I know what it leads to, man. You hear that commentator in your head.
It's good to have that, or like when you skip workouts or whatever it may be, like not to make people or force people to work out, but squeegeeing the shower, not giving your kids the time that you set out to give the time, not waking up for them, your workout. A lot of these physical vehicles allow you to just see that barometer a lot better, so you can go ideological in your mind about business or relationships or anything else. These physicals are just easier to see. I'm not getting my water in every day.
Yep.
My diet, my sleep, like things like that are just a lot. If you use them right, they can help with the ideological side when you're growing things. They're easier to see. So I definitely agree, like finding some of those to just take a look at is super huge. And then I think the last thing we want to talk about today, because I know we're getting long-winded here, but it's a great topic, supplementation stuff, right? Like sometimes too much of too good, too much of something that's good cannot be good per se, right? Like too much caffeine, too much of something is not so good. I've kind of like, I don't take much supplements anymore, man. I take a pre-workout. What's that pack I take from Joe Rogan?
Like Optimum Human or something like that.
Yeah, it's like a pack. It's got Shroom Tech. It's like a daily dose of like 6 pills from Onnit.
8 pills in the morning and 8 pills at night.
Yeah, and I like them. They're easily you digest them pretty easy.
I just started those. Those are badass, bro.
I love them.
Total Human, that's called. Total Human by Onnit.
But I think you've got an interesting take on this, man, and I want you to be able to talk about it, because I think it was something huge for you, and I definitely think a lot of people can resonate with some of the stuff that you decided to subtract out of your daily supplementation and how it helped.
Man, first of all, I love supplements.
It's not cocaine, by the way. Eli's not going to rehab.
I love supplements, man. I love the science behind supplements. I love researching things. I like finding out the science of the chemicals and shit of how different supplements react with your body, and then the certain things that they do and have an effect on. And I just like being able to control my body, man. That's why I like bodybuilding. That's why I like, working out. I like that if there's something about myself I want to change, I like learning how to change it. It gives me a good feeling of control. Man, I remember when I realized I had cankles, I cried myself to sleep that night, bro. Probably 6th grade. When I realized I had cankles. That was like when I was fat, Eli.
You had cankles?
I had cankles, bro.
And you knew it.
And it was summertime coming up, and I knew I wanted to wear shorts, and I was looking at...
You don't have them now. How'd you get rid of them?
No, I don't have them. Lost weight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But again, that's where that control comes from, as far as like, there was something about my body I didn't like. I did something. I fixed it. I'm addicted to that shit. So
got it.
Supplements are a really dangerous and easy way to be like, I feel one way. Pop. Ooh, now I feel another way. Yeah. Right? It's this almost immediate effect. Some supplements, immediate effect that you can control. So anyway, when I was probably 21, 22 maybe, I had gotten exposed to Adderall. And previous to that, I had zero interest because I had seen some friends go through some crazy shit with Adderall, literally losing their damn minds.
Wow.
So when I got introduced to it, naturally I'd do my research and, okay, pros and cons. Okay, I'm not bipolar, so I'll probably be safe. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, cool. So then
But you felt like you needed it. You're like, hey, maybe I need it.
Again, chronic procrastinator. I'm down enough. I like going up. Yeah. That's, I think, probably why I don't like alcohol as much, because that brings me down, and I'm already kind of a down guy.
And you're drinking calories, and that's not good.
Yeah, I don't want to do that shit. But yeah, so I like things that take me up too.
Right.
I also like things that take me both directions, like upper, like weed, and then
a whole other podcast.
Yeah, a whole other podcast. Yep. But
by the way, everybody, I'm safe. Eli's not influencing me with entirely everything yet.
So man, I started taking Adderall, and dude, it served me well for years and years and years. I was always hyper aware of how I was doing it and what I was doing. Like I know it's very addictive. It literally is meth. There's meth in the name. And the fact that, man, I just picture whoever the pharmaceutical guys are that literally get around a table and they're like, okay, so this is meth, like for sure. Let's give it to kids. Like how that became a thing. Oh, yeah. No fucking clue. Again, different topic.
It's a couple molecules away.
It's pretty meth-like,
but it's a couple molecules away.
Sure.
I mean, understanding, like if you're looking at like DNA calendars, like we're a couple molecules away from being a earthworm.
Yeah.
So it's close, but it's far at the same time.
It's kind of like vodka versus beer.
Meth is made out of like bleach and other weird shit in a bathroom sink
meth,
or a tub.
Super clean meth.
Super synthetic, super clean.
So anyway, man, it served me for years, dude. And I was always super careful about when I took it and how much I took and all that stuff. And for me, what it fixed is that call to Comcast that I've been needing to make for 2 months.
Yeah.
Man, by the time I'm even thinking about needing to call those guys, I've already dialed the number and I'm on the phone, just getting shit done. For years, it was like that. For about the past 5 years, though, 3 to 5 years, I've just been feeling, first of all, like it was a crutch. Like I found myself not wanting to go and even do things. Not that I needed to, but I'm like, oh, let me make sure I get this first, right? I won't be good without the Adderall, right?
Yeah.
A podcast. Okay, I won't be able to have a conversation without the Adderall, or it'll be a better. So I didn't like that, first of all. So I started recognizing that. Second of all, I started not feeling as creative and just zombie, Like I stopped getting excited about conversations, and I noticed like passion, just excitement about things was lacking.
Yeah.
So just like this, as far as emotion, which again served me for a long time, but I got a family and shit now. I want to be able to get happy and excited about doing things, right? Yeah. And then lastly, man, I started again putting undue stress on myself, because when I would get home and very important, I take those 2 or 3 hours and I'm dad and I'm with Elijah and doing those things. Just that constant, like I would feel this anxiety of like, oh fuck, work's getting away from me. Oh, I'm falling behind. I'm doing this. And then I would do the will exercise as far as like, okay, map out what you actually need to do.
Yeah.
Oh, it's literally answer a couple emails,
Yeah.
And I'm
hey, by the way, those can get answered tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. when I start my job. And I remember you spoke to me about that. That was the one that like was interesting to hear, because you're like, man, even when I was getting stressed to like do a workload or just do work on this stuff. And even when like video editing. Hey, tomorrow I've got 6 hours set aside for when I'm doing that tomorrow morning. But like, I've got this anxiety that I'm not doing anything. I should just do that right now.
Yep. And I was just putting this undue stress on myself, and listening to that commentator in my head, I'm like, man, it's just not serving you anymore. So I'm like, I'm 3 weeks off now, 3 weeks off completely, and just cold turkey. And I've been on it for 10 years and stopped. But already, man, like I told you last week, I had such a productive weekend from just sleeping, not stressing myself out, going hard when I'm working. But then when I'm taking those 2 hours, I'm more okay. Just, hey, I'm going to answer those emails in the morning, or I'm going to answer those after he goes to bed.
Yeah.
It's all good. I'm being a better father. I'm actually being more productive.
Slow is smooth, and smooth is fast, man.
Damn,
like just
bro.
being fluid with things, you end up being a lot quicker, and you learn some of that in Idaho.
Yeah.
Just like watching some of us shoot, and just understanding, like, man, if these guys are so dialed in with their weapons, like, they slowly walk through it. Hey, I'm going to show you what I'm about to do right now, and then they do it so fluid. And then you watch a lot of unneeded movements not happen. Just the minimal amount of movement that has to happen to execute tactical reloads and be back on target versus like just turning the gun and doing all this stuff. And like, man, this other guy, not experienced, looks like he's going fast as shit. He's 2.5 seconds behind this guy who's just extremely smooth and proficient.
And sometimes it physically looks slow.
It does, and it looks like there's not a lot of effort behind it. But like, man, you also have to understand, like, guys that are prepared for gunfights. Hey, man, you're physically gonna get taxed. So wherever you can save some energy and make things as fluid as possible and as simplistic as possible, so when you're not quite focused on it, you can still execute and make it second nature. If you're practicing a lot of these just unneeded movements, like, how do you make that habitual in a productive way? You just don't, man. But that's, I was excited to hear that, because it's like, yeah, man, what are you stressing for? Like, hey, we can do this. And I think there's just that balance of like, yep, there's some times where you go, oh man, I forgot to get that email, but that one needs to be done right now. That one, hey, we've got this deadline. That's tomorrow morning. I got to get it to them tonight. But then just do that one. Very rarely are 15 emails or 100 emails due right now. But it's just having that intuition of like knowing when you got to kick yourself in the ass and like, hey, these 1 or 2 things, nope, I got to get up and I got to get those things done, either because you said you would, or because maybe it's date or deadline critical and they just have to get done. But then open it and get those 2 done. And then the rest of them that you're about to look at, hey, fucking let them go and then be good to go.
Man, that's the other thing too, real quick. You mentioned because I said I would. That's the other thing I'm being way better about with myself, because I used to have that bad habit of, oh, I'll have this to you by the end of the day. Well, no, you won't. That's when you end up being up at 11:30 and midnight because you told that person, and they would have no problem. It's a basic thing, whatever it is. Hey, I'll have that over to you in a couple days.
Yeah.
So much better on my psyche than whatever habit I just had of telling people, yep, hey, I'll have that to you by this evening. Eli.
Yeah, don't say that if it's not needed.
Yeah.
But if it is needed, then make sure it gets done. And then at the same time, understanding that, like, if you say you're going to have it, hey, man, I'll have it to you by today. 11:59
that doesn't
is
count.
No different than 0800 tomorrow morning. So today's kind of gone, bro, because motherfuckers are in bed. Hey, thanks, dude.
He went to bed 3 hours ago thinking you failed.
Yeah, but again, like you said, just not adding some undue stress of like, oh, cool, man, I'm going to get that to you, and then, well, I don't need it tomorrow, but okay, then you don't, and then now you've set this expectation on yourself, and now I'm watching you not do something that wasn't needed, but all I remember is you didn't get it to me. And most people are like, hey, cool, no sweat. But again, if you start creating a habit of saying you're going to do something and you don't do it, that habit's going to creep into things that are super important. And you tell your wife you're going to take her out for her anniversary and you don't do it. Or you say something about being at someone's birthday party and then you don't do it. Like, understand, like, the incrementals, these super small scenarios are great. Like, your day in and day out. Things that you say yourself, little things of like saying you're going to get something to someone by that day, but you don't need to, or little things that you do need to get it to. Yeah. The small interaction that you have there that are not like super high risk, that's where you practice. Those are your sparring. Yeah. Day in and day out, those actions of getting your workout in and your water and your diet and doing what you say you're going to do on the things that are not super, super high stress or super, super important. That's sparring.
Yeah.
That's you getting your reps in, so when it does count, you show up.
Now, before we're done, since I talk shit about supplements, I want to talk about some good supplements that can help and are actually productive and kind of help boost your brain's own natural ability versus this artificial ability through methamphetamines.
Haven't heard anything that Eli's going to say. I don't know if I sign off on any of them or not. So please understand that this podcast does not support any independent supplements.
First of all, before supplements, diet, real quick.
Yep.
Man, meat, fish, proteins, that sort of shit, critical for myself. I know you're no vegan.
Why would you assume that?
I think it's just a guess, right? Just a guess. But for me, proteins, particularly eggs, I love eggs. Those have phenomenal omega-3s and 6s. 9s are the ones that we have too much of in our body and can cause a little toxicity because there's a lot of those in just some of the other stuff that we have. So not all omegas are created equal. Omega-3s and 6s are the most important ones. So healthy fats, salmon, right? Steak, bison, eggs, all really good at that. In addition to that, for me personally, man, if I have real heavy carbs in the morning, dude, I'm falling asleep, man. Even a bowl of oatmeal, like healthy oatmeal, I get tired on, man.
You just got to know yourself, man. I think most importantly is, when you guys are diving into a different type of diet, things like that. The only thing I would have for people to suggest to them is don't start with a fad diet.
Yeah.
Right. Intermittent fasting and, 30-day fasting or vegan, vegetarian, paleo. Don't get me wrong, vegans and vegetarians, I think it's more of like just a lifestyle choice. I'm not going to touch on those or make fun. It's all good. But like a paleo diet, the caveman diet, I feel like those are a lot of fad diets that just take an extreme sector of health and they just get you to focus on that, and you can get some results will be a byproduct of what you're just negating to do to your body during that time. And it's kind of like, it's not a shortcut. I don't want to call it that, but what I will say is this: you've got to understand fundamentally like what carbs and fats and proteins just do in your body. Like for me, when I gain weight, has nothing to do with lack of knowledge. Everything to do is I'm just eating bullshit and I just don't give a fuck.
Yep.
And I'm eating it. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. I'm just saying I'm fully aware of it.
Yep.
Right, like when I got up to like 270 and I was banging out super heavy weights at the gym and whatever, I knew exactly what I was doing. It was not paying attention to my diet, eating a ton, and feeling like Superman in the gym because when you're all carved up and you got fats and your joints are lubed up, you can press a fucking house. Yeah. Cool, not very indicative for the things that I'm doing now. With some of the more the endurance stuff or functional forms of lifting. So cool. So now, like it or not, which I don't like, I have to change how I eat. To then taper back down and be more, not just to have abs, but to just be more functional, period, because the type of training I'm doing right now is more functional. Some of the endurance stuff, that's kind of cool that I might dabble in. You've got to be more functional. You have to have more endurance. So you're just not going to be that, right? Okay, cool. So now I've got to change my diet. But in order to do that and be successful, you have to just understand macros and how proteins, fats, and carbs, what they're intended for, how they break down in your body. And then more importantly, you've got to have some time understanding those, not only just scientifically how it works, but then how they work in your body, right? Some people do great high fat with no carb, or low carb. Some people do great with moderate to high carb but lower fat. Some people have certain problems with certain types of proteins. You're not really going to know that stuff for you. And don't say, oh yeah, red meat. Oh yeah, I just don't do very well on red meat. Are you saying that because someone else said it?
Right.
Or is it true? Like for me, I do great on milk. I fucking love, and it pisses me off because the second I pull milk or any dairy out of my diet, I just start losing weight like crazy. But I fucking like whole milk, Royal Crest, whole milk.
Yeah.
I promise you, Royal Crest has some place in heaven where the milk just floats down these clouds into this little container and then right on my front porch.
Funny. Yeah.
And it's always cold.
That's funny.
It's amazing.
Get that nice little plastic bottle.
It'll keep you nice and fat. Nice, fat and happy, buddy. Right? Like Royal Crest's going to take over the world, buddy. I promise you. But hey, I just don't, man, like it's not so much like the fats to it, right? It's just dairy, man. Like dairy tends to stick to me a little bit more than anything else. So, hey, cool. But it's not because I'm lactose intolerant or anything like that. Just, hey, man, like it sticks to me. It's also got a ton of sugar and other stuff in it. So I think whole milk just kind of sticks on everybody unless you just genetically shred it.
Pizza in a bottle, man. Just fats and sugars. Yeah,
exactly right. So don't talk shit about pizza too. Wean me into this trash talking about things that I love.
Pizza all day, bro.
Yeah, but I think just, again, understanding fats, proteins, carbohydrates, different types of meats, but then how your body breaks them down. And if you don't understand fundamentally how your body is responding to those, and if you haven't created some decent habits of just getting a decent amount of food in you that's good food throughout your day, you're not going to do good trying to force it. Because I promise you, intermittent fasting is not just eating a bunch of shit for 8 hours and fasting for 16. No, you still have to hit your macros. You still have to hit your proteins, your fats, and your carbs for the most part to the best of your ability in that window. If you don't know how to hit that when you can eat all day, how are you going to hit that when you're eating 8 hours a day?
Great point.
You're not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great point.
If you're doing a caveman diet, I don't know. I don't like starting off with fat. I like, hey, understand the fundamentals, work through fundamentals, work out how they apply to you. Then if you want to venture off and do some fasting or something else, you're going to understand how those advanced or fad diets kind of work and why there's some hacks that allow them to work. And you'll be successful versus you just like never dieting, but now you're Paleolithic. You're fucking crazy, man.
People think that's what a diet is.
No.
People don't realize that going on a diet is just eating sensibly and understanding what you're eating and understanding what's going in your body. To me, that's being on a diet.
Right.
Is making conscious decisions about what you're putting in your body. Sometimes it's a bad diet. Sometimes it's a good diet.
Or just talk about, don't say you're on a diet, just talk about your diet.
Exactly.
Because whatever food you're putting in is your diet.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your diet.
Yeah. And then last two supplements I want to chat about, which are, and you know, I'm just so much more into as far as supplements go. I do like nootropics and things that, you know, help my cognitive function. I find if I focus on my brain, then my energy is better versus just going straight to caffeine or something. So two things for that, choline and then Lion's Mane. So choline, and I'm an idiot, so this is probably going to sound idiotic to people that actually know what they're talking about, but this is my understanding. And I know I'm not too far off, probably wrong on some points, but not too far off. So choline essentially, it helps the communication between your like neurotransmitters in your brain. So you have like one transmitter over here, one transmitter over here. Choline is what helps the electricity, for lack of a better term, between the two, right? So I find that I communicate better, that I help like create thoughts better when I'm focused on getting choline. There's a lot of choline in eggs, actually. So if you are vegan or vegetarian, probably want to be supplementing with that. And then Lion's Mane, that's one I've introduced in the past couple months. It's a mushroom, and basically that helps like preserve and repair those transmitters that I was speaking of. So choline helps the communication between the two. Lion's Mane helps the transmitters themselves to receive and deliver communication better. And there are signs that it helps prevent Alzheimer's and things like that we don't want down the road. So it has been a really good shift, you know, getting off of Adderall and focusing more, instead of just forcing this energy, just protecting and preserving and helping my body produce more of its energy on its own.
And then there's that, what do you call it? Placebo.
Yeah.
Maybe you just feel really good taking all that shit. Who knows?
It's all studied and stuff, but yeah, but placebos are real. Yeah.
Who knows? Good
Double-blind studies over here, bro.
And just, you know, and then, hey, last but not least, right? Like, I'm just going to be honest about, like, Eli's work ethic and, you know, the lack of Adderall. I think just our good friendship, I think things that we have popping up right now that are great opportunities and just organically drive some adrenaline through you and just some good endorphin because we're excited about some things that are right in front of us and those opportunities, and the work we've been doing is kind of like what's slotted us for some of these. So we have enough energy to do what we've been doing for a long time because we understand that's feeding into this, but we're still getting excited for this and just loving what you're doing and being passionate about it. I do think that we're reaping some of that benefit of our friendship and being able to like pull some energy from one another and the conversations that we have. The opportunities that we have coming up, super motivating. The work we've put in so far that created those opportunities keeps us buoyant in the fact that we know we still have to continue to do our daily to get them done. And we're just finding a way to just make work fun, man. Like our YouTube pages are phenomenal. We're having a lot of fun with that. The clients that we have, that we get from that we have from everywhere else, tend to enjoy who we are as people. And man, I just think we're in a great space with the circle around us in business, with the circle around us in our personal life, with you and I being circles that overlap. We don't bring a lot of stress to one another. Like my life happens to be in a really great place, like with my family, my personal life. You know, your life, your personal life is in a great place. Our business relationships that we have around us, you know, you and I are simultaneously in a great place. It's not like one of us is going through a divorce and I've got to drag some of your way because you're in a bad place or anything like that. Like, the timing of you and I both being in a great place, along with our business opportunities being in a great place and our work ethic being in a great place, man, like there's a lot of energy and a lot of flow and a lot of passion to get after it every day because we're starting to really love what we do, man. Like we're like when I talk about like just doing the next thing to get to that next level of success. And as you continue to climb that ladder, your options open. Mm-hmm. There's more opportunity. You and I hitting top 1%, then top 0.5% worldwide in real estate, put us on a platform of opportunity, allows us to say that in the first place. Mm-hmm. That gives us opportunity to be in the room to speak to certain people that are now open to us. Mm-hmm. We had to kind of prove ourselves for a while. And for a while, it was the next deal, the next agent we were training, the next Friday meeting, the next accountability meeting, the next Wednesday meeting. That shit's infantry. There's not a lot of romantic shit there. It's a lot of like in the trenches. But like now as we're getting more toward command staff, where we're more leadership driven, more influence driven, more command staff, you know, like a lot of our tank is opened up and we're in a good place. Mm-hmm. And we've kind of like, we're reaping the fruit of our labor a little bit. Like I think there's just a lot of natural drive and passion you and I are putting toward what we're doing right now, in addition to other, because I take some supplements like you were talking about, the On It ones are phenomenal, but I also just think, man, our lives being in a good place simultaneously. You hear a lot about business partners, one of them's not in a good place, but the other one is, or they're both not, or man, like you and I are both in a great space. And again, it's our business relationships, it's our personal relationships, and our overlap. It's great.
And it's not by accident. Like I know some people look at us like, oh, you guys are lucky you have each other.
Oh, fuck.
Or, oh, you guys are this and this. And I'm like, guys, it's not by accident. It's all by design, you know? And it's like, you and I, you know, serendipitously crossed paths. But if you and I weren't doing the shit we were doing 10 years prior, those paths wouldn't have crossed. Yeah. You know, so it's like.
And we treat our business like another kid.
Yeah.
You and I are raising a baby, man, and we've got to like articulate that to our families, you know, and then you and I communicate really well as far as like when someone's feeling something or if there's a disconnect, we sit down, we talk about it, we figure it out, but there's no breaking up. We have a lot of respect toward one another, so there isn't any abuse in that sense. But yeah, man, not to discredit any supplements or anything like that, but I just think, you know, our heads above water where we can breathe right now, we've kind of come about. It's a great place to be at, man.
It is. It is. Just like anything, man. You know, if you take a solid athlete, you know, it's steroids, right? TRT, whatever you want to call it. Look at some 15-year-old that's taking it, and it's like, man, you're gonna fuck your shit up. You're
too much too soon, man.
You're gonna fuck it up. Yep.
Yeah, too much too soon.
You take a seasoned athlete, you know, someone that's been lifting 10, 15 years, maybe their testosterone is naturally starting to decline now. You add a little bit, take it up to high end of optimal ranges, you're gonna see that shit soar, right, and be super effective.
You might become an asshole. Some people are just, even on TRT, dude, even on testosterone replacement therapy, some people are just jerks and they know it, then don't do it. Find a different way. But I think, you know, the whole long story long here is just finding ways to do find a way to do the next right thing in your personal life and your professional life. When you do have some wins, some small wins, like don't be afraid to reward yourself with a pat on the back. Like, hey, cool, man, I got that win today. Hey, good. Recognize it. Don't necessarily stop everything you're doing to celebrate it. Like recognize it. Allow that to build momentum, not complacency, you know, and then continue to stack those until you get to a place where you do have more options. But I promise you, as you grind and those options open up, work, your career, like your passions that you're becoming successful at becomes super fun. And man, like your momentum is very long lived. Your energy for the day and what you're attacking, and you're doing what you set out to do, and it took all that grind up front to just get into that room in the first place. Once you get to that room, man, it's fun, and your energy for the day, endless.
It's true, man.
Super endless.
It's true.
Man. Yeah,
I like 100%. It. Let's end on that.
Yeah, man. Great podcast. If you guys have anything for us, please feel free to reach out directly and throw some questions on here, whatever it may be. But with that being said, until next time.
We'll see you next time, guys.
Out.
Thank you.
Whiskey on the tongue, it's real good.